coming up on the Success Times Happiness podcast.
I'm obviously ripping things to shreds at all times, but I have recently, just through experiences, learnt that imposter syndrome is exactly that, and that I don't need to doubt myself in this world. Something that really gets to me is if people call me intimidating or say I'm too big or I'm taking up too much space. That is, for whatever reason, I feel I'm not deserving of that. But I've recently just gone through experiences where I've realised I'm actually not too much. They're too small, and that's okay, but just you're not my people.
Yeah.
And I don't need to be less for someone else to feel more comfortable. And I think now having that mindset as hindsight to things that have happened, I, moving forward, am going to be able to see so much more and be able to empower so much more as a leader as well.
Have you ever felt like success was slipping through your fingers? Not because you weren't capable, but because you were juggling too much. Maybe you've built something incredible, but instead of freedom, you feel trapped by it. Today's guest, Nikole Cassin, knows that feeling all too well. But she didn't just push through it. She built a multi-million-dollar business, scaled it to $12 million, and then created a framework to help other entrepreneurs do the same without the burnout. But before all of that, there was resilience. There was a strategy, and there was a moment when Nikole realized that success isn't about working harder. It's about scaling smarter. In this episode, we unpack how her upbringing shaped her relentless mindset, how she grew Get Going support into an empire, and how you can apply a strategic scale framework to take your business to the next level. If you're an entrepreneur, a leader, or just someone looking to redefine what success means, this one is for you. All right, let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Nikole Cassin.
Thank you.
So I sort of feel like most entrepreneurs have this sort of pivotal moment or lived experience early in their life that sort of shapes their trajectory and what their outlook. Is there a key moment in your backstory that you look back and go, I'm glad that's it, or that's been an important part of my journey?
I don't think I have a key moment. My story is it's quite heavy. I had a wonderful upbringing in respect to my home was lovely. We were given everything we needed. Unfortunately, though, on the flip side of that, behind closed doors, I experienced quite significant trauma. So there was abuse. And then in my teenage years, there was a lot of loss. So my brother passed away when I was 14, and I think that was a pinnacle moment for my family. That shattered the world for our family. And in shattering, that was such a huge event for everyone that for me, it was a moment where I think I felt forgotten and left out, but then I also took off. So I was gone from kind of 14, 15.
You say took off, you left home?
Yeah. So I left home, I left school. I had to either go to school or get a job and pay rent. So I got a job and paid rent.
Wow.
Yeah.
How old is your brother?
It was a month before his 17th.
Okay.
Yeah. So, on reflection now, I'm 38, I'm turning 39 next month. I think what I've learned from that is I used to harbor a lot of frustration and anger at my parents because I don't feel they ever really spoke to me or respected that as a sister, an only female the only girl and the youngest, that I was treated or supported in a way that I also lost my brother. The focus was that my parents lost their child. And in that, I felt I got lost.
And maybe is it true to say that they were mourning the loss of their family?
Yes. So there's a saying that death in the family either brings you together or splits you apart. And it catastrophically split us apart.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
And thank you. So now that I'm older and I've processed, I believe my family coped the best they could with the tools they had. And I'm at peace with that. I feel incredibly sad for both my mum and dad now that I'm a mother of 3 sons. It's such a unimaginable tragedy. But that was kind of the start of a lot of things for me. I literally changed the spelling of my name because I went to a new school for a few weeks, and this was after my brother Chris passed away. And my name is Nicole, but I spell it with a K. And I only found out this year when I went away. I actually went to a retreat in Bali for 30 days to get sober. So while I was over there doing a whole heap of psychology and things around trauma in my childhood, I changed the spelling of my name because Nikole with a K is a really strong person with a big, bold personality. Sometimes people call her intimidating or whatever. And what I learnt was Nikole with a C is like my inner child. And she stopped in that moment because in that moment when my brother passed.
That moment that your brother passed.
Yeah, because when my brother passed, I moved out of home, which meant my abuse stopped too.
Yeah.
From someone else. So
that was still going on.
Yeah, up until 14. So it was like a pinnacle moment of me stepping into a new brave world. And I never ever knew. I just sort of said, oh, because my name, I just used to spell it Nick, N-I-K. But actually there was a really deep reason behind it. I'm also fortunate that the trauma didn't send me down that much of a path where it kind of shifted somewhere else, like dissociative disorder or something like that, because that's probably pretty close when you change your name to identify as a more confident, you know what I mean? So that was interesting. And then my dad passed away, which was really hard. When he was 50, I was 24. Just after that, I went through a divorce. I have 3 sons. And I guess just some other things, bits and pieces that happened that I've had to restart a few times. I started a charity. In the charity that was for mental health, so exercise for mental health, and we started to make headway, but I didn't realize or know how to. A charity is still a business. You still have to run it in a fashion that can pay you a wage. I couldn't work out how to morally take an income. I couldn't understand that I was to get paid from that charity because I thought that was wrong. And so then I ended up with a Part 9 debt agreement after that learning. Probably, though, the collective of all those things and then getting to in my 30s, I finally got diagnosed with ADHD. There's definitely like ADHD plus TISM. There's definitely some, I haven't been diagnosed with ASD, but they speak to that quite a lot. Whether some of that, though, is most likely trauma responses, so complex PTSD.
Yeah, okay.
I think once that happened is when I was able to stop with a new lens and look back at everything that's happened in my life and realize that I was always going to be something driven and great. I just didn't know that I was allowed to feel that. And what I've taken away is everything that I've been through has given me an opportunity to be incredibly resilient through unfortunate circumstances. Trauma has allowed me to be hypervigilant. I can assess a room, energy, the shift in someone's space, if they're in, out, whatever. As a salesperson, what a great superpower. So, all these things that have happened in my story and that, I'm pretty open about and share with people, what's come out of it is pretty brilliant.
How do you think people who are in the trenches of dealing with trauma or dealing with adversity, what advice would you give to them to change it to become their superpower?
I think coming to a space and feeling comfortable within your own self-awareness that whilst that is a journey that you've been taken down and you didn't ask for, it has happened and you can't undo that. And you're in a position, whatever age or wherever you are in life, that with whatever time you have left, you can control that to a point of view, sorry. So taking a moment to say, do you know what? I'm going to be at peace. That is that. And find the forgiveness you need to, or allow a level of understanding if you don't wish to forgive in areas. That's okay as well, I think. This whole thing that you need to forgive everyone, I don't actually agree with. You just need to be okay with where you're at and accept. Accept if you don't want to forgive, that's okay, but accept that you're not going to. And then, just noting those traits and behaviors and bits and bobs, they're all incredible abilities that you now have. So I think when people say, oh my gosh, you're so resilient, it's like people say that as if it's some kind of prize. And I don't believe people really stop and think what it means for someone who has a lot of resilience. It actually comes from. There's no other way to get that level of resilience other than through adverse
lived
experiences. So
there's a bit about that of getting to that point of saying, and I guess it's the experience of the adversity that maybe they're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
They can't comprehend, or haven't lived that experience. So they go, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Right? But if you have the same mindset of going, and then what? Like, what do we do now? Doesn't matter what you embrace, right? Anything could occur in your life, like the passing of a child, which, with 5 in my house, and with you, I couldn't imagine that.
Yeah.
But at some point, after the necessary level of, the initial position, in any sort of in any sort of trauma, at some point you have to say, now what am I going to do? That's the past. That's happened. Yes, we can learn from that.
And there's space for that. I think it's important that people know that they have space, and it's okay to take space sitting in the past for a little while. It's okay to sit there, but you do have to make a conscious effort at some point to step back out.
Yeah, and I think that like people talk about the timing to get over something.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, whether it's a breakup, whether it's
anything.
Yeah, no matter levels 1 to 10. But I think the point at which you say, all right, I'm past that, is the point where you are about to step up and go, okay, accept. It's the acceptance piece, what you've said.
Yeah.
It's to come to the acceptance and say, all right, I don't forgive that person, or that's okay. But you've accepted where you are now.
Yeah.
You're ready to go to the next step.
And take control of that. That actually didn't happen for me for a long time. I didn't realize it hadn't happened. But for 24 years, April 27th last year, is when I stopped drinking. For 24 years, I used to binge drink. I wouldn't drink so much during the week. I wouldn't really have alcohol in the house, things like that. But I drank to numb any amount of pain. And it happened, the first drink I had was at the funeral of my brother.
Right.
Handed a beer from my dad, and that's now how we cope. And that was historically within my family. Dad's dad died at 50. My dad died at 50. So there's these things that I'm scared of. So to me, statistically, 50 is a bit scary. My dad's brother passed away 17, 18. My brother passed away at 17. So I'm now getting to this place where I used to numb that these were worries for me by drinking on the weekends and being extremely busy during the week. And now that I don't drink at all, I don't numb those feelings, I'm starting to learn stuff that I never knew was a driver. I've got sons, my middle son especially, Mana, reminds me so much of my brother, that lately he's just hit the age I was when my brother passed. And I've lately been finding that there's this funny fear that keeps coming up in me that it's going to repeat. And it's easy, I guess, to say, well, there's no evidence in that, Nikole, but unfortunately in my body, in the feelings it knows, and in my brain, in the story it can tell, it does know what that feels like. And so when I start feeling that again because I'm scared, my brain doesn't know that it's true or not true. It just knows that that's a feeling, and oh crap, here it comes. And so getting to a place where you can not numb yourself, however people choose to do that at times, and to accept and own that you have to sit through that, and then take away from that something to bring some value to what you've experienced. I just think there's always something good that you can take out of it.
Yeah.
And with that, it makes me feel a little better that I've had to go through what I've gone through. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
The gifts I've been given in the end
from those experiences
can't be wasted to me.
Sure.
It's really important. Because otherwise I feel that that's a part of the legacy that I'd be taking away from my brother or my dad or. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's pivot into business.
Business.
Now,
Do love business.
A big elevator for you to pitch me. Because what's really been inspiring getting to know you is your other baby.
Yes.
Of Get Going Support. Give me an elevator pitch.
For Get Going Support? Get Going Support is a NDIS registered business, and it provides direct supports for people with disabilities. And we essentially hire support workers, and they go out and empower people with disabilities to live their greatest life.
Tell me how it started.
Get Going Support started because I was a pest in everyone else's business. I worked after the charity that I worked in property. I worked in real estate, did sales, property management, then worked for one of the largest real estate companies in their corporate office doing strategic business development and things like that. And then had a complete sort of moment and then started the charity that didn't go ahead. So during that, I met somebody who offered me a job in community services and said, you'd be great working with clients and relationship management. And I needed to sort of start again in a new space. So I took that job. What I found was happening was I kept finding solutions to problems they didn't know they had. But I was also finding solutions that weren't wanted in a way that's not what they were focused on. And so the nickname or the naming started around being disruptive. The first time I got fired for being disruptive, I won't forget that. And I thought it was really so negative. And I was a bit gutted. I had no idea that I was being that disruptive by pointing out these problems. They were just inefficient though, so I couldn't compute. After that, I had another couple of jobs in the community sector, private and not-for-profit, in the same space that I'm in providing services to people with disabilities. And again, this same sort of theme occurred. But what I learnt the last time, the last business I worked for was, it's their vision and I can't change their vision, and that's what's disruptive. I didn't realize that what I was doing was actually taking away from someone brave enough to go out on their own and start something. I was just being a bull thinking, no, but these are solutions and they help everyone. Well, no, because it didn't meet the vision that they had. So I left and said, well, I'll put my money where my mouth is. I started with one client and a laptop 4 years ago this June, and I built in 3 years a business with $12 million in annual revenue of providing direct supports to people.
Yeah.
A really incredible space that
That's incredible. That's in 3 years.
In 3 years, we did that organically. I learned a lot.
What was the biggest hurdle?
Finances.
Sure.
Yeah. Relationship management and growth strategies, business development, sales, any of that to me, irrelevant of the product or the end result, I feel is the same. Systems, building a pipeline, etc., is the same no matter where you go with growth, no matter what industry, right? So I feel very comfortable in that space. What I didn't know was finances, and that's never been a strength for me. Someone with ADHD, today we can buy this, tomorrow we have buyer's remorse. It's sort of ebbs and flows. I need dopamine. If I'm having a low, all those sorts of things that I've had to learn to manage. So that was big learning. I had no idea that you get to a point you've got to pay a tax for paying payroll. Payroll tax. I still don't understand.
No, I don't think many businesses understand the payroll tax piece. But
and then if I pay more payroll, if I provide more opportunities to the economy and the employment of people, I will pay a tax for that.
Correct. Yep.
On top of any other taxes. Anyway, we won't go into it. But I don't get the taxing part.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was probably a big learning, was get the right. I'm fortunate I had an amazing accountant that I actually went to school with. And he was really transparent and lovely that when I went in and had a conversation at a certain size, I sort of said, hey, I feel that I might be outgrowing you because I'm not feeling that I'm getting as much information as I used to. And they were great and said, at your speed and this is unknown. So you have. And then I've engaged my still standing accountant, which is Andrew Walker. I introduced you to Walker Hill. He's amazing. And he kind of just gets me and understands and his experience with the hyper growth. Sorry.
Yeah. Talking about the scaling side of that business of going support, you've gone from one client and a laptop to $12 million in 3 years. What did that path look like?
Yeah. Do you know what the driver of what I learned is that I don't know what I don't know. So I didn't know that was unusual.
Right.
Everyone would tell me it's quite incredible, but I never knew it was that incredible. The amount of attention I started getting, I guess, started to bring some, maybe at 2.5 years, I started realizing because I was getting a lot of attention. But it genuinely just was providing a service that people wanted. I had no idea what I remember. I would say it all the time. How much money am I meant to have in the bank to be in a safe place? And I never ever knew what that was because I've never been a business owner before. So it was just a genuine growth through providing a service and I guess being passionate about that. There was no strategy. I only ever wanted to replace my income. I was just meant to have 4 or 5 clients. So my partner didn't have to pay for the kids and I.
How did your leadership develop over three years?
I have been able to stretch and have been fortunate to have staff come on board that thanks to because I'm self-aware, I'm very open and honest about my skills and my gaps. And I've always hired to the gaps and not pretended to be what they are.
Mhm.
So finance, I have an incredible finance manager. I don't ever get involved. I need to know, but I trust you.
Mhm.
And then I've got an overview of you, which is the accountant. But I've been able to stretch into other people's places and understand that if I don't understand their perspective or where they're coming from, I allow them to educate me rather than me tell them I don't get that, you need to change.
Yeah, right.
Because if I tell them they need to change, then why do I have them? I'll just do their job. So it's unusual that I'll hire something that I'm capable of doing because then I will tell them they're not doing it right. And that's a crappy thing to do.
Yeah.
So I typically don't have BDM, don't do sale, that's me. But what I do is all the other areas of business. I've been able to find incredible people who I can lean on. And so it's a really collaborative leadership process. For some people, I've been told I'm an absentee leader because I genuinely will just let you do your thing.
Well, it sounds like horizontal rather than a vertical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very much we're all a team. One of the things from my childhood is my innate fear of failing because I feel I've always had to work so hard to get noticed. So what that's resulted in as I get older and as an adult is that I have a huge drive for success. And that is just a part of my makeup now due to feeling that I was never noticed. I overachieve. And so I use that to my benefit instead of letting it,
Yeah, yeah.
And so that means that I'm able to be far more collaborative and I want to be a part of a team because I didn't get that feeling when I was growing up. So now I have this team that I've been able to somewhat manufacture and it fills a void, which allows me to perform better because now it gives me a happiness. And some people would say that that's not right. I feel like it is because I can't take that away.
Yeah,
you're
not fabricating that.
No.
It's a genuine feeling.
Yeah.
Was there any moment in that over those 3 years where you were like, "Oh, we are really off to the races here"? Like that you've found a niche that in the business is working well, or the growth?
No, there definitely has been those moments. Unfortunately, I didn't acknowledge them in the moments that they should have
Of course,
been.
we're high performers. We don't.
I'm extremely high performing.
Don't look at the rear vision mirror for anyone.
No, if anything, I'm obviously ripping things to shreds at all times. But I have recently, just through experiences, learnt that imposter syndrome is exactly that, and that I don't need to doubt myself in this world. When people say something that really gets to me is if people call me intimidating or say I'm too big or I'm taking up too much space. That is, for whatever reason, I feel I'm not deserving of that. But I've recently just gone through experiences where I've realized I'm actually not too much. They're too small. And that's okay, but just you're not my people.
Yeah.
And I don't need to be less for someone else to feel more comfortable. And I think now having that mindset as hindsight to things that have happened, I, moving forward, am going to be able to see so much more and be able to empower so much more as a leader as well.
Yeah, I think as high performers, we tend to not look where we've come from. It's in the similar vein of the trauma piece, but I think it may work against us a little bit. Or it works. I think it's indifferent to the experience. It's to say whether it's bad or whether it's good or bad, positive or negative. The history, the past is that it is. It's like, where are we now? And we're going this way. And so the tendency of that is not to celebrate the small wins. And I think So for that whole 3 years, is there any moment where you're like, I want to celebrate a little bit here because we've achieved?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have had moments. Um, for me, the biggest celebration is the positive impact that I'm able to have on other people's lives. And that can be, as cliche as I guess some people might find that can be with participants, but it is also very much in the employment space. To be an employer of choice, I don't think enough people focus on being an employer of choice. They focus on the end user and wanting to only ensure that they're participant focused or end user focused, and that's who pays the bill. The bill doesn't exist if we don't have the people turning up each day to allow the product to be there, right? So focusing on being an employer of choice and really ensuring that I stop and take a minute, because I do value that a lot, allows me to celebrate. And I think they keep me pretty grounded too.
I love that.
They definitely pull me into line.
And now let's pivot to the next venture, even though Get Going Support's still going to be hitting the moon.
Yes.
But Nikole Cassin, the coaching piece.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So nicolecassin.com.au, it is a space that I've created that is really driven from understanding that I can't be the only soul in this universe that has imposter syndrome or that feels that question of, are they doing enough? Is this enough? And I found that I was always seeking a mentor and never could quite find one, because mostly because I didn't think I was deserving of someone who would put their hand up, but I was like, oh gosh, they're too smart. They've got too much to offer. I'm not worthy of that. And going through everything that I have and experienced everything, I realized that I actually have a value to be a mentor to somebody, and that's okay to feel that way. And that doesn't mean ego. That means, to be able to sit in your space and feel genuine about your contribution, I think is a beautiful thing. So in May, I'm launching a membership platform, and it's on Mighty Networks. And on the membership platform, it's free to access, and then you can upgrade to a membership. And in that membership, you get monthly speakers who talk about all sorts of incredible things around leadership, resilience, growth mindsets, etc. We also have worksheets and things that just help with the theme for each month. And there's a course that I've designed that runs online that you also get.
So there's a theme each month in terms of the progression?
Yeah. So, month one might be around, I won't say month one, I don't have the list here, but there might be a month might be based around sort of resilience in leadership or resilience in business. And the speaker at the end of that month would be driven around that and have example to that in their own success and things like that.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, you're going to join us. You're one of the speakers for month 3.
Yeah, well, there you go. What do you think the biggest mistake is for entrepreneurs? I guess they've got something good and they go, okay, and they want to scale it. They want to make it more profitable or a larger footprint.
I think the biggest mistake in that is to think that what I want is scale, but actually what you want to do is bring back the passion of what you do. And by focusing on the impact you can have in the world, you then start to shift your mindset as to how can I provide solutions to more people. By providing solutions to more people in your niche, you by nature will scale. So you've got to bring it back down to what is it that you're scaling and what impact are you trying to have?
Rather than scaling itself.
Rather than think of scaling as itself, right? So, everyone starts, no matter what they do, everyone starts because they had a gap that they wanted to service. And I think we can get lost when we get to, at any size, you can get lost when you're trying to grow in converting from that passion and that solution to simply numbers. And you've got to rein it back in, because the solution you had is a feeling that you gave people when you solved that problem. And what we offer people, it's not so much the product. The product doesn't matter. You're offering a solution and a feeling in any industry. And it might be a feeling of safety. It might be a feeling of, it's important to know what that is and to keep trying to touch as many people as you can who are needing that. And that's how you can scale. So I think when people lose their core values and the core of what got them started, to be brave and take the risk. Because to be an entrepreneur, you got to be brave. I mean, be brave and a little bit crazy.
A little bit unhinged.
A little bit unhinged, and that's why we can't work for other people, because we drive them bonkers.
You've got a business owner who let's say, then focuses on the end, what got them into the business in the first place, giving back to the end user, making a difference. They're onto a good thing, let's say, and they are otherwise really good at the on the tool work, and they can see that what they're doing is creating the demand. Let's say services. Now they're growing, but they're stuck being on the tools.
Yeah.
And not stepping away and working on the business.
Yeah, so I've experienced this. It's essentially that you become the brand.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and also what can they do?
It's you that is providing the value, and you're trying to step back and empower and enable other people that you employ to have some value to provide people. I can only go from my personal experiences. I actually have been to that point where I've completely stepped out and not provided any services because I've employed an entire team.
What percentage were you? Was it a gradual, Nick?
Yeah, it was gradual. It probably... Yeah, it was... I don't really know how to answer that question.
It wasn't as if you had a full list of on the tools work and then one day you're like, all right.
Oh, no, I just gradually handed things over because growing was just what was occurring. And then at some point I shifted from this naturally occurring to intentional growth. And it was in that moment that I just spoke about before, when you shift from natural progression to intentional progression, but your intention becomes numbers, not because you forgot what the natural progression was about, right? So I shifted to intentional growth based on revenue amount. And the moment I did that, everything changed. And for me personally, not in a positive way. I didn't know at the time. I just know now, which hindsight's so wonderful. For me personally, there is no size worth losing the passion that I get and the value that I get just being involved. So you've got to make a decision. Do you scale because you want to be this insanely big business with heaps of money, or do you make a decision that you stop there, understand you will always probably be on the tools a little bit, but what you get from that is incredible because you'd be empowering and teaching other people to use your tools while you stand beside them. I would much rather do that and maintain a level of employment than sit on the beach retired at, 39 or whatever, or in my early 40s with none of the people that helped me get there. Like, that's very lonely.
I don't know whether you can see that this is what you're doing now because you've got Get Going support. It's off to the moon and it's almost, you're there, but you're working on it. You've got the people doing the thing. And you're starting NikoleCassin.com.au as a one-to-one. Like, it's not necessarily super scalable. There's the courses, but it's genuinely their position to say, I'm here giving back.
Yeah.
Because that's what fulfills me. It's not like you're better off probably selling widgets for $1, buying widgets for $1 and selling it for 10.
100%. So that, you're exactly right. Not one thing, there's many things that I've been able to learn and take away from my experiences in life, but one thing that is incredibly important to me beyond everything else is the legacy I leave. I had to learn the hard way when people used to ask me about my brother or my dad and what they were like. My dad had an interesting past, and when people would say, what was your dad like? I used to start immediately with a negative. He was a pisshead and he used to get stoned and blah, 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 blah. I didn't realize until I got over the hurt and anger that I had about some other stuff that the very first words I say about him is a legacy he leaves behind. And for that, having 3 sons and knowing that one day, inevitably, because life is life, someone will ask them, what was your mum like? And my hope and dream is that the very first words they say is that she would always help someone else. And I, to my core, live that. And if I feel it's almost a duty of care. If you have the knowledge that you're able to help just one other person by sharing your journey, you have a duty of care to act on that. Because otherwise, what's your purpose? Like, what's your core if you're keeping that from other people? So Nikole Cassin for me is very much a passion project, and very much because I believe there is value in what I've learned. And if that helps just one person be brave or take action, and then that impacts another human, well, what an incredible legacy.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thanks for having me.
5 questions, quick ones before you go rapid fire.
Oh, gosh.
Okay? And then we're changing up these for you.
Okay.
going forward. First one, what does success mean to you?
Empowering.
Second one, what does happiness mean to you?
Contentment.
Third, in 30 seconds, what's your morning routine look like?
Every single day, 7 days a week, I wake up at about 6:30. I walk down the front and have coffee with the local Majimba ladies, and I call them the Brains Trust.
Okay.
And I adore them, and they've sort of all adopted me, and they're all at varying ages in life, and they rock.
That's awesome.
Unless I'm not in Majimba, but that is what I do.
Sure. Number 4, biggest lesson you've learnt in life?
That the space I take up is okay, and that I don't need to diminish, my shine. It's okay. I can shine if I'm shining. I can shine. Others can put sunnies on.
And then lastly, a guest that you would recommend that we would interview on the show. Who would you recommend?
David Watson, neuro lead.
Awesome. Nikole Cassin, thank you so much. It has been an absolute dream to have you on, and appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That was another episode of the Success Times Happiness podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Next time you're sitting next to a fellow entrepreneur, turn to them and tell them all about the show. It means the world to us. Until next time, peace.